Disclaimer. The following broadcast contains commentary, opinion, and information protected under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The content shared in this program is based on public records, eyewitness accounts, and/or publicly available information, and is presented for news, commentary, educational, and public interest purposes only. The broadcast may contain allegations or discussions of criminal behavior. Viewers are advised to do their own research and draw their own conclusions. Any opinions expressed by the host or guest are strictly their own and do not reflect the views of any affiliated platforms or partners. Thank you.
Scrolling and trolling. Scrolling and trolling, patrolling, trying to get back to me. Late night overworking, you're lurking, trying to change your destiny. But you have broken my trust, and when a girl is done, that's enough. Scrolling and trolling, you can get back to my love. You can get my time. There's no more level lines for you. You can get my side. Now that my eyes unwind to you, and in the end when push comes to shove, and when it's good girls I didn't know. Scrolling and trolling is the way to show your love for me right now. For me right now. And in the end when push comes to shove, and when the good girls I didn't know, scrolling and trolling is the way to show you love.
Make way for the Mitchie. 5'4", 1/5, bust down, full clip. Now I ain't gotta sell them who the full whip, but you can bet FanDuel, I ain't with the bullshit. Did it in the work, I ain't playing with your demons, trying to usurp all my energies for dreaming. I ain't got the time, need the space, gotta wean them. Off of my titty, I ain't raising nobody's son. You know I'm the one, I ain't gotta tell you again, I'm the one. Thought I chose English, I thought I hit the one. No, ain't no uno reverse when I tell you that I'm done. Caught you scrolling and trolling, trying to get back to me. Overworking, you're lurking, trying to change your destiny, but you have broken my trust. And when a girl's at you scrolling and trolling, you'll get back to mine. Scrolling and trolling, patrolling, trying to get back to me. Late night overworking, you're lurking, trying to change your destiny, but you have broken my trust. And when a girl is done, that's enough. Scrolling and trolling, you can get back to my love. You can get my time. There's no more level lines for you. You can get my side.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Put a red dot in the chat. Red dots in the chat.
And when it's good girls, I didn't know. Scrolling and trolling is the way to show you.
Can you hear me?
For me,
red dots in the chat.
Right now. For me right now. And when the end was chat, baby. And when the good girls, I didn't know. Scrolling and trolling is the way to show you love.
Yes. Absolutely. That is Scrolling and Trolling, out now on all streaming platforms. Stream that right now. That is me, Ty-Mitch, the person to be. If it's not me, then who is it? No shade. Welcome. We have a lot to get into, people. No shade. Thank you so much. Hey, Canadian Crystal. Hey, Crystal, what's going on? We are getting into all the things of the things, honey. Today, we are starting our Straight Outta Crombie series. We are covering the Abercrombie case. No shade. This case is not surprising. You know, there has been many allegations across the years, and just forever, about people in their relationship with the company and all the things that are things, as far as people being touched, people being, groped, graped, all of the things. I mean, this case is set to be one of the most scandalous of cases of all time. And we are going to get into it right now. Okay, I think it is important. Actually, guys, this is my first stream. I am so excited. Let me get on camera. Here we go. Hey guys, what's going on? We are here. Like, comment, subscribe. I think we have a couple of more to go before we hit 1,000 subs. No shade. So yeah, I think we covered all ground. I think it is very important to establish the history of Abercrombie before we get into what we're going to get into. Okay, 1 second.
Abercrombie & Fitch. Now, this company has had an eventful history, having existed in what I would consider to be maybe 4 or 5 very different forms. I'm talking about multiple rises and falls, switching between different industries, ultimately becoming a controversial clothing retailer. The most successful of any of it, and I'm guessing the one that most of us associate with the brand, it can be characterized by pictures like this. So in this video, I want to talk about all of it, how they got to that point, how they got away from it, and how they've been affected by all the changes. I know this seems like a somewhat modern company, but it goes all the way back to the 1800s. David Abercrombie was a real outdoors type person. He was a prospector, then a miner. He spent some time manufacturing gear for camping, so toward the end of that century, he fittingly opened a store that sold outdoors equipment. It was higher-end stuff that was used for fishing, hunting, and of course camping. One of his customers was a wealthy lawyer named Ezra Fitch, who clearly also enjoyed outdoor activities. In 1904, he invested in that store, and that was the start of the Abercrombie & Fitch partnership, which oddly enough only lasted for about 3 years. The two of them weren't getting along all that well, so Abercrombie left the partnership and therefore the store that he had started, and Fitch continued operating it under that same name. A couple years later, he took a big risk by investing a bunch of his money to create a 450-page catalog, print 50,000 copies of it, and thankfully the risk paid off when customers started placing a bunch of orders from it. By 1917, the business was doing well enough to relocate into a 12-story building in New York City that would soon become their famous flagship store. It sounds funny when I say it today, but Abercrombie & Fitch became widely known as an upper-class retailer of equipment for outdoor activities, primarily for hunting. After Fitch sold his interest in the 1920s, the new leaders made some acquisitions that helped them build the largest collection of firearms in the world. They were seen as the store where you could find just about anything you were looking for, and even gained some publicity from their list of celebrity customers, including Theodore Roosevelt, Charles Lindbergh, Amelia Earhart, and Ernest Hemingway. In fact, this is pretty dark and unclear if it's even true, but it has been reported that Ernest Hemingway took his own life using a firearm that he bought at Abercrombie & Fitch. Over the following decades, they opened 2 more principal stores in Chicago and San Francisco, along with 6 other smaller stores strategically placed around the country. Their most successful year operating in this form was 1968, with sales of $28 million. But by the 1970s, things started to take a turn. Potential reasons for it would be the rise of discount retailers. Places like Target or Walmart were now selling comparable equipment at considerably lower prices, an issue that was compounded by a slower economy during those years where people were really looking for lower prices. They started reporting yearly losses, totaling to over $2.5 million throughout the first half of that decade, so the lack of money on hand forced them to cut back on their inventory available, specifically the really expensive stuff that they were famous for, resulting in some some empty shelves and a hurt public image. In 1976, they filed for bankruptcy, closing all of their stores soon after and effectively ending the over 80 years run of the initial Abercrombie and Fitch, which you would really think would be the end of it. I can't imagine there were many people predicting that that name would ever have any further significance, let alone what it actually ended up becoming. But there was a sporting goods chain in Texas called Oshman's, who later became part of Sports Authority, who bought the name and the trademark and essentially the rights to open a new, very different store called Abercrombie and Fitch. So in 1979, they opened one in Beverly Hills that was much more in line with the Oshman stores rather than the previous stores, focusing on clothes and equipment for sports like basketball and baseball rather than camping and hunting. Throughout the 1980s, they opened bigger stores in Dallas and New York City, growing to 27 locations by 1987 with sales of about $50 million, meaning this new resurrected version of Abercrombie and Fitch technically grew to be almost twice as big as the previous version. The following year, 2 of those stores were closed by Oshman's, while the remaining 25 were sold to Limited Brands for $45 million. Now, Limited Brands was not concerned with sporting goods, but rather with clothing stores. Earlier in that decade, they had acquired a bunch of them, including Victoria's Secret and Lane Bryant. I think we're starting to see the evolution take shape into something more familiar here, but I would still call this a transitional period because the Abercrombie and Fitch that we all know didn't truly start to take shape until 1992, when there was a new leader put in charge named Mike Jeffries, a controversial figure. But however you feel about him, it's hard to deny the positive impact that he's had on the company financially. I think that we can say that he was the one most responsible for transforming the chain and growing it from $85 million in sales to $4.5 billion at their peak 20 years later. Over that time, they also grew from 40 stores to over 1,000. They went from losing money to profiting hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, those are results that any retailer or any company at all could typically only wish for. In his own words, in 1992, we began to build a new Abercrombie and Fitch rooted in East Coast traditions with an Ivy League heritage. We positioned the brand to target a young and hip customer by offering high-quality, trendy, right casual sportswear and creating a unique, exceptional in-store environment which established an emotional connection with our customer. That's the thing. Their whole image became about being young and cool and provocative. Their advertising became very revealing and sexualized. They were known for these black and white advertisements that almost exclusively featured young, white, muscular individuals. In 1997, they started publishing a magazine called A&F Quarterly that was controversial because it featured similar photos with nudity in some cases. There were a lot of protests against it, but it was effective marketing. It caught people's attention and made them see Abercrombie as a hip and attractive brand. And that image even translated inside the stores. I mean, there was no mistaking an Abercrombie and Fitch. Anyone that has shopped there during that 20-plus year time period can tell you that it was a unique experience. The lights were turned down really low. The music was almost absurdly loud. They would spray cologne all over the place to give it a strong, distinct smell. There would be these models that worked there hanging out without a shirt on. It was craziness. The whole environment much more resembled a nightclub rather than a retail store. But if you were a teenager or in your early 20s, there was a good chance that you would think all of that stuff was really cool. But maybe not anymore. Abercrombie and Fitch has since fallen considerably, both financially and in terms of reputation. So I put together a list of 5 reasons that I believe to be significant behind their decline. Starting with some of the more obvious ones: rising competition. I'm talking about retailers offering cheaper alternatives like American Eagle Outfitters, but also the rise of the entire fast fashion industry has been a concern. Stores like H&M or Forever 21, commonly only a short walk away in the mall, offering a changing variety at cheaper prices. Traditionally, many Abercrombie stores have been located in shopping malls, which I suppose I should put as my second reason. A decline in mall traffic or a mall being shut down entirely could absolutely hurt sales. I've talked about this on the channel quite a bit before, so moving on to my third reason: individuality. I'm sure we all understand that the fashion industry is forever changing. Abercrombie found tremendous success with their very specific approach that can't be expected to work for decades. What may have seemed cool 20 years ago may just seem annoying or offensive today. I'll admit, I'm not an expert when it comes to fashion, but I believe it has evolved to become much more about individuality. Back in the day, teenagers across the country would be proud to wear that Abercrombie logo because it would help them fit in with everyone else. That was kind of the whole point. Wearing one of their shirts meant that you were part of the cool group, but now no one cares about being in the cool group. So in 2014, they even announced that they would stop putting that logo on everything. Another reason behind their decline could potentially be their failed store concepts. In 1998, they started a store called Abercrombie Abercrombie Kids, and as the name implies, it's similar to the original store, but for a younger customer. As far as I can tell, it's been successful. There are still many of them around today. 2 years later, they started another chain of stores called Hollister, and we all know how successful that one has been. It's always been a somewhat similar store, but with more of a laid-back California beach attitude. I would guess that you may be even more familiar with it because Hollister quickly became the most desirable part of the company, surpassing the Abercrombie stores in terms of sales in 2009 and maintaining that position ever since. That is all impressive, but Abercrombie was nowhere near as successful with their next 2 attempts. In 2004, they attempted a new concept called Roll. It was a clothing store meant for an older customer, like someone in their 20s or 30s, but it never caught on too well, growing to about 30 locations before being discontinued after only 5 years. Their next attempt was in 2008 with a store called Gilly Hicks. They sold women's intimates and loungewear, but yet again, it never caught on as well, also growing to about 30 locations before closing after 5 years. I should mention that Gilly Hicks did come back a few years later as a brand sold in Hollister and online, but overall, that's still not the most successful attempt. For my final reason behind their decline, I have to talk about their scandals. Abercrombie & Fitch has been involved in so many scandals that have collectively hurt their image and caused many potential customers to simply stay away. Just going through some of their bigger ones. In 2002, they were protested for selling these t-shirts that had offensive depictions of Asian individuals. They quickly pulled them off their shelves, and the representative said, "We are very, very, very sorry." In 2004, there was a class action lawsuit settlement of $40 million. The claim was that Abercrombie was discriminating against minority applicants in the hiring process, and also that the few minorities that they did hire were expected to work in the back of the store away from the public. Interestingly, part of that settlement said that they also had to have more diversity in their marketing so that they wouldn't discourage minorities from applying for the jobs there. People also didn't approve of the fact that the store refused to sell larger clothing sizes for women. It took them until 2013 to announce that they would finally start doing it. And then there was even more backlash when their CEO, Mike Jeffries, infamously said that the brand was meant for cool, good-looking people. You may have picked up on the fact that most of these issues have a theme of being insensitive and excluding certain people. It really seemed like they only wanted young, thin, attractive, white people in that store and sort of made everyone else feel uncomfortable or even discriminated against. So there you go, 5 reasons behind the decline of Abercrombie & Fitch. But that's not the end of it. Responding to the troubles, Mike Jeffries left the company in 2014, and in the following years, the new leadership implemented a lot of necessary changes. And I use that word necessary partially because in an official survey of over 9,000 people, Abercrombie was ranked the most hated retailer in the US. The changes were predictable enough though. I already said how they reduced the use of their logo, they changed the entire store environment so it was much less like a nightclub, they got rid of those shirtless models and stopped hiring people based on their looks. That entire Abercrombie image that we all came to know is essentially gone. I thought maybe a good way to convey that would be to compare the cover of their financial statement from 2002 to the one from 2021. The newer one obviously being more diverse, family-friendly, even less shallow maybe. Along with the marketing adjustments, the company has been switching up their product mix more often, has been more accurate in predicting new fashion trends, maybe even affecting some of those fashion trends to an extent with how much they have been talked about on TikTok and other social media. Becoming more relevant and raising sales have contributed to the impressive rise of its stock price, making it one of the better investments over the past few years, and overall it has been called one of the biggest comebacks in retail, proving that this company right here always seems to find its way back in unexpected ways, so it is probably going to be interesting to keep an eye on it to see where it goes next.
That was a lot, right? But it is very important that we know what we're dealing with because we are going to get into the things. On stage, me, please. I need to be on stage, honey. So that was the crash course on the history of Abercrombie and Fitch. Now, Abercrombie and Fitch owns a couple of your favorite brands, right? As we know, they own Abercrombie and Fitch, Abercrombie Kids, Hollister, this other brand called Rule, I think, and the Hicks brand. I'm not sure. I guess that was a girl's brand, I guess. I remember working at Hollister. And I'm attractive, but I didn't know why I wasn't a model on the floor And when you hear the stories of people, talking about their experience of who was on the floor and who was in the back, who was a model and who was in the back. I was in the back. I was doing impact, right? I was folding the clothes, censoring the clothes, unboxing. I was doing shipment basically. I didn't think nothing of it, but when this Dominican girl came in, she was pretty. I liked her. I liked it, Adriana. But when that little heifer got to go to the floor, honey, I was like, oh, girl, Miss Mama, what's going on, Miss Mama? Because I'm trying to figure out, now I have an issue with you. Because, girl, why you get to go on the floor and I don't get to go on the floor? So I do believe when people say, when they come out and say the things about Abercrombie and Fitch and how they used to do people and how they used to do the hiring and everything like that, I believe those stories, honey. I'm gonna show you something. This is how we used to do. This is how I still to this day, and anybody can attest to this. If you worked at Abercrombie and Fitch, Hollister, Abercrombie, kids, anywhere when they had sweaters, hoodies, this is how they used to fold the hoodies. Oh, speaking of hoodies, this is Overly Invested Podcast. I have merch, I have hats, I have shirts, and this is the magenta hoodie. But I'm going to show you how we used to fold the hoodies at Hollister. So, 1 second, just a second. And you're going to fold your hoodies like this. All right, I'm going to do it in the air, and then I want you guys, I'm going to do it on the table. How do we do it? Okay, so what we did like this, right? Y'all can see? And then we did like this, right? We folded this down. Oh my God, something's on my hoodie. Oh my God, somebody said something on my hoodie. So we fold this down, right? We fold this down like this. And then we fold the other side down like this. Put it like this, right? Everything's nice and neat. Both sides like this. Hold up. Absolutely. I remember this. I remember the smell right now. I can remember the smell, right? We folded just like that. And then we took it. We came up with it, right? Boom. We flipped it around. We took the hoodie part and we flipped it over like this, right? And then we tucked the hoodie into the little pocket. This is how we used to store the stuff in the back of the store of Hollister. Ask anybody. I'm not lying. Look, just like this. Boom. This is how we used to store our hoodies. This is how we used to store our hoodies. And they would stack up nice and neat. Boom, 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 boom. This is how we used to store our hoodies. Okay? But I said that to say, I know the culture. I was there. I don't know everything about what the mother girls was going through. I don't know nothing about that. I don't know nothing about that. But I do know, because I don't know nothing about that. What I know is the stuff that I witnessed with my own eyes. So listen, it's a good idea to save space. So as we continue, right? So now time has passed. I didn't stay with Hollister for a long time, right? I didn't stay pretty long with Hollister. Black Friday, you did have the models in the store, the live models. You did have to buy your own clothes. You did have to wear Hollister. You did get discounts, but you did have to wear Hollister or something that didn't have, it was strict. It was definitely strict. The store was sprayed every 2 minutes. Like, it was ridiculous how the spray would hit. I can smell it right now. I can see the bottle right now. It looked like a Hennessy fifth bottle, a quarter, a quart, or whatever, a pint. It looked like a Hennessy, a pint. I'm telling you, Abercrombie and Fitch, when they needed more people, they would come to Hollister and get their people. They would use each other. That, like, when they were low staff, they would. But the thing was, the Abercrombie was more of the magazine girls. The Hollister girls was very much baby sis. You know, Abercrombie was mama. You know, Abercrombie was mama, and the Abercrombie kids was the babies. So I do remember working at Abercrombie and Fitch. I just felt so out of place. It was more polished. It was more brighter. You know, Hollister is very, very dim, very dim. So I do remember going to Abercrombie and Fitch very rarely. I think it was for a floor plan or something like that. Like, they were not going to have me in Abercrombie and Fitch if I damn near was not even on the floor at Hollister. Okay? There was just like no way that they was going to have me on the floor. No shade. So I didn't even expect them to put me on the floor when I went over. They must have really needed somebody if I was going over from Hollister to Abercrombie and Fitch. So it was just like a lot. And those odors, like, I think there should be something like, are you abusing me? Because I didn't sign up to smell this right now. Well, I guess not, because the doors weren't locked and the doors weren't closed and things like that. So I did have a choice to walk in and walk out the store. Maybe not. But aroma therapy is real. Like, it did say, oh, if you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, you weren't going back into Hollister no more. If you didn't like I believe that was a gamble. I think they really took a gamble. I think all of those stores that spray the stores before the people come in, they take a gamble because aromatherapy is real. Aroma is something that is in our psyche, right? That's something that, oh, that smells like this. Oh, that reminds me of this. A lot of people get triggered by different aromas. So I would be interested in knowing how many people walked in Hollister and walked out because they didn't like the fucking smell. Sometimes because somebody said I walked in one day and nobody greeted me and I walked out. Absolutely. Sometimes I do that too. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, nobody greeted me? Well, fuck you too. Well, fuck you too. If you can't greet me, you don't get my money. You know what I'm saying? If you don't greet me, you don't get my money. If I'm not here to you, then how will I make a transaction with you if you're not making you can't make a transaction with Casper? Hello? So if you don't value my presence, then how the hell are you going to value my money? The Crombie case. All right, we're here. We see it? We're on the screen? All right, we're going to start. The United States of America versus Michael Jeffries, Matthew Smith, and James Jacobson. Get into the Crombie case straight out of Crombie. From approximately 1992 to 2014, the defendant, Michael S. Jeffries, was the chief executive officer of Abercrombie & Fitch Co., a fashion clothing retailer that owned and operated retail stores around the world. The Jeffrey family's office was established to manage Jeffrey's personal income and assets, which included properties in Watermill, New York, and among others. The defendant, Matthew C. Smith, was the defendant Michael S. Jeffries' romantic partner. Now, you guys, Jeffrey and Matthew are partners. We've established that. Matthew and Michael are partners, basically. Number 2, the defendant, Matthew C. Smith, was the defendant Michael S. Jeffries' romantic partner as well as employee of JFO. In addition to managing assets, the JFO employed personnel who facilitated Jeffries and Smith's personal and social living lives, among other things, arranging their travel and managing their properties and financial affairs. Red dots in the chat. The defendant, James T. Jacobson, also known as Jim Jake, Mrs. Cook, and Todd, was employed by the defendants Michael S. Jeffries and Matthew C. Smith to recruit, interview, and hire men to perform commercial acts for Jeffries and Smith, including at their New York properties. Oh my God. The X trafficking and business. The X trafficking and business. This is what this is talking about. From approximately 2008 to 2015, the defendant Michael S. Jeffries, Matthew C. Smith, and James T. Jacobson, together with others, operated an international X trafficking and business. During this period, Jeffries and Smith relied on their vast financial resources, Jeffries' power as the CEO of Abercrombie, and numerous people, including Jacobson, and a network of employees, contractors, and security professionals to run a business that was dedicated to fulfilling their actual desires and ensuring that their international X trafficking and business was kept secret, thereby maintaining Jeffries' powerful reputation. Oh my God. As part of this international X trafficking and business, the defendants Michael S. Jeffries and Matthew C. Smith paid dozens of men, including and among John Doe's 1 through 15. So there's 15 people that were codees at the grand jury. My God, today. Let me read that again. As part of this international X trafficking and business, the defendants Michael S. Jeffries and Matthew C. Smith paid of dozens of men, including among others John Doe's 1 through 15 individuals whose identities are known to the grand jury, to travel within the United States and to internationally meet Jeffries and Smith in various locations, including at their New York properties, as well as in hotels such as places as England, France, Italy, Morocco, and the Saint Barthélemy, for the purpose of engaging in criminal X acts with Jeffries, Smiths, and others. Some of the men traveled to and were paid to attend multiple X events. Number 6. This is, oh girl. The defendants Michael S. Jeffries and Matthew C. Smith, through the JFO, recruited, hired, and paid an inclusive set of household staff to facilitate and supervise the X acts. Among other things, the staff transported men to and from the events, arranged physical spaces for the X events, and supervised the men who attended, including, among other things, facilitating the conduct described below in paragraph 9 through 11. At the red dots in the chat, tap the screen, share the live, sub up, what's going on, what we doing? At the direction of the defendants Michael S. Jeffries and Matthew C. Smith, the staff were present at, observed, and acted as security for, including by controlling entry and exit, the X events. The staff also provided Jeffries, Smith, and the men who attended with alcohol, muscle relaxants known as poppers, lubricant, Viagra, condoms, and other items. As directed by Jeffries and Smith, the staff also directed the men to, among and other things, wear costumes, use X toys, and prepare for particular sexual acts. Either the defendant, James T. Jacobson, or the staff paid the men for attending the X events. Number 8. The defendant James T. Jacobson traveled throughout the United States and internationally to recruit and interview men for X events. During tryouts of potential candidates, Jacobson typically required that the candidates first engage in commercial X acts with him. Following the tryout by Jacobson, the defendant Matthew C. Smith approved candidates prior to their selection for and transportation to a X event. At the direction of Smith, Jacobson paid fees to individuals who successfully referred men who were subsequently selected. Number 9. The defendants, Michael S. Jeffries, Matthew C. Smith, and James Jacobson, and others acting at their direction, employed I don't know, girl. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with a coercive. Y'all can read that? I'm not sure. Fraudulent and deceptive tactics in connection with the recruitment, hiring, transportation, obtaining, maintaining, solicitation, and payment of the men to engage in commercial acts. For example, Jeffrey, Smith, and Jacobson and others acted at their direction. Employed a referral system and interview process that failed to inform men of the details of the X events before they attended, including the full extent and nature of the actual activity that would be required of the men at the X events, including, among other things, anal intercourse, the insertion of large sex toys into the anus, and high-pressured enemas administered by inserting a hose into the anus. I don't even do an enema with a hose. Wait a second. You're telling me that they had these boys putting a hose in their anus? How long did they plan on banging these boys? A hose in your anus is crazy. Required that prospective candidates first practice in a sexual encounter and tryout with Jacobson at times without advance notice. Caused men to believe that attending the X events could yield modeling opportunities with Abercrombie or otherwise benefit their careers, or in the alternative, that not complying with requests for certain acts during the X events could harm their careers, including by, among other things, referring directly and indirectly to modeling opportunities that did not exist, incorporating Abercrombie products in X events, and providing men with itineraries for the X events that did not refer to commercial X and instead resembled those often sent to models for photo shoots, thereby obscuring the nature of the X events from the men selected to attend. Physical groomed men prior to the X events included at times shaving men's genitals without their advance notice. Required men to relinquish their personal items, including clothing, wallets, and cellular phones, and store them in an inaccessible location during the X events. Required men to sign non-disclosure agreements, which among other things prohibited the disclosure of information about the X events, including to their family and friends, and required the payment of damages in the event of a breach. Intentionally recruited heterosexual men, certain of whom were unwilling to engage in particular X acts, including anal sex, and insisted that men who previously stated that they were unwilling to engage in particular X acts, including anal sex, nonetheless engage in such acts during the sex acts. Pressured men to consume alcohol, Viagra, and muscle relaxants known as poppers during the X events. I never really liked poppers. And require the presence of the staff during the actual activity and ensure that the men attending did not leave the X events until Jeffries and Smith decided that they were over. On more than one occasion, the defendants Michael S. Jeffries and Matthew C. Smith either directed others to or personally injected men into... Wait, what? Either directed others to or personally injected men in their penises with a prescription-grade erection, including substances, for the purpose of causing the men to engage in X acts in which they were otherwise physically incapable or willing. So they're saying that they injected them because some of the men weren't into that type of thing. So I'm guessing they couldn't get aroused. So they injected them with a prescription grade erection substance. Notwithstanding the fact that these injections were not medically indicated and frequently caused the men to suffer painful physical reactions that lasted for several hours, Jeffries and Smith employed their use to fulfill their own sexual desires by causing men to submit to them. The defendants, Michael S. Jeffries and Matthew C. Smith, engaged in sex acts, continue to engage in X acts, or cause men to engage in X acts, including to, but not limited to, anal penetration and the use of high prescribed enemas. High pressured enemas, not prescribed. Enemas can't be prescribed. Because if they could, I would need a full script, honey, every day. To which the men did not or were unable to consent. Count 1, X trafficking. Count 2 through 16, interstate. Look at this. Look at this list. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Criminal forfeiture allegation as to count 1. The United States hereby gives notice to the defendants that upon their conviction of the offense charged in count 1, the government will seek forfeiture in accordance with Title 18 United States Code Section 1594D of any property, real or personal, that was involved in, used, or intended to be used to commit or to facilitate the commission of such offense, and any property traceable to such property, and any property, real or personal, constituting or derived from proceeding obtained directly or indirectly as a result of such offense, or any property traceable to such property. If any of the above described forfeitable property as a result of any act or omission of the defendants cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, has been transferred or sold to or deposited with a third party, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, has been substantially diminished in value, or has been commingled with other property which cannot be divided without difficulty, it is in the intent of the United States, pursuant to Title 21 United States Code Section 853P, to seek forfeiture of any other property of the defendants up to the value of the forfeitable property described in this forfeiture allegation. They said, we want your house. We want your house. So listen, criminal forfeiture allegation as to counts 2 through 16. It reads the same as I just read. Okay? And they are all arrested. When was this? It says 2024. Now, listen to this. Miss Jeffries. How old is Miss Jeffries? 80-something years old? How old Miss Jeffries? Miss Jeffries. Miss Jeffries. Let me see. How old is Jeffries? Miss Jeffries is What's Miss Jeffries' name? Michael? "82 years old, July 15th, 1944. He done seen everything. He probably went through the Dust Bowl. Miss Jeffries, this Miss Jeffries right here. Miss Jeffries is old as the cotton gin, bitch. I'm trying to tell you. She is older than the cotton gin, matter of fact. No shade. I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Miss Jeffries said, I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm not mentally competent. Miss Jeffries was in the courts, in the back room of the courts, screaming to the courts that he's not mentally competent to stand trial. So they're gonna have to do something. Honey, child, them people said, bitch. Them people said, bring your ass to the court. Take a look. Miss Jeffries had a competency test. Girl, let's get into it. December 10th, 2025. Now, listen, it says, please find enclosed at December 4th, 2025, letter to the court from B. Lott, acting warden at the Bureau of Prisons Federal Medical Facility in Butner, North Carolina, regarding the forensic evaluation Michael Jeffries, and a December 4th, 2025 letter from B. Lott to the clerk of the court enclosing a certificate of restoration of competency to stand trial for Michael Jeffries. The government and the counsel for Jeffries, who consents to the public filing of the attached, received both documents via email on December 10th, 2025. Listen to this. This is the warden of the Bureau of Prisons, bitch. Bring your ass to court. This is what the people are saying. Bring you, bitch, you 80 years old now. Well, hold on. No, hold on. Wait, hold on. This grand indictment. Wait, y'all. We gotta do some math here. Because if the grand indictment came down, if he's 82 today, the indictment goes back all the way till 1992. Somebody do some math. How old was Jeffries? He was born, He was born 1944. So 1944 minus 1992 minus 1944. He was 50 years old. Damn near 50 years old when he started. I need you guys to understand that. He was 50 years old when he started. And he's probably Republican. He was 50 years old when he started. Ain't no telling how old these John Does were, and there were 15 of them. He was damn near 50 years old. He is 82 today. Let's read this case. Now this is the warden. Dear Judge, in accordance with your last order, a forensic evaluation of Mr. Jeffries has been completed. Please see our opinion in the attached report. If you require additional information or clarification of issues presented in the report, our clinicians are available by telephone or video conferencing. Unfortunately, our budget does not include funding for travel. If a clinician's presence in court is required, we will have to request the reimbursement of expenses. If appropriate, the United States Marshal Service will be notified for his return to your district for further legal proceedings. If we can be of further assistance to you in this or other matters, please do not hesitate to contact Ms. Stacy Burrows, Health Services Assistant at extension 630. Respectfully, B-Lot, Acting Warden. Now listen. Now this is the warden right here. Dear Clerk of Court, please find enclosed a certificate of restoration of competency to stand trial on the above referenced individual. Mr. Jeffries was committed to FMC Butner under the provisions of Section 4241D for continued hospitalization and treatment in an effort to restore his competency to stand trial. Mr. Jeffries is now competent to stand trial, and our reporting reflecting this opinion will be forwarded to the Honorable Judge on this date. We are forwarding this certificate to your office for filing pursuant to Title 18 United States Code Section 4241E. Thank you for your assistance in this matter. Then it goes to the certificate of restoration of competency to stand trial. Listen, this is to certify that Michael S. Jeffries, register number 42482-511, is able to understand the nature of his consequences of the proceedings against him and to assist properly in his own defense. This certification is made and filed with the clerk of the court pursuant to Title 18 United States Code Section 4241E. In accordance with Section 4241E, the clerk of the court should mail a copy of this certificate to the defendant's counsel and the attorney for the government. He'll be at trial. Michael will be at trial. So we will be watching this case. We will be seeing everything that this case has to offer. And it's sad because this is not the only type of people that do this, right? This is an abuse of power. And I also want to say another thing, that a lot of people will try to act as if this is a matter of homosexuality or whatever the case may be. I just hate when people take the low route of things, right? These John Does, when people use, this is my opinion, when people use X as a weapon, right? We're speaking in code. When people use X as a weapon, sexual orientation goes out the window. Because I am an openly homosexual, okay? If I hear that another man is abusing another man using X, my first thought is not, oh, they are homosexual, because that would mean that's not what I define as homosexual. I define that as sexual abuse. So I don't want to hear on YouTube, Oh, because he was gay? Oh, he was sleeping with him and that made him gay? Now, Matthew and Michael, they together. We don't know the actual orientation of them other people, so we're not about to do the low-hanging fruit, guys. We're not going to do that. These are people that were abused through the tool of X, and anybody that used X as a tool has an issue with me. They have a deep issue with me because that is using your power and everything to your advantage. So I will be watching this case. I will be surveilling this case. We will be covering this case. We went down the indictment and we went to the competency, and everybody is ready and everybody's coming because there's going to be a party at the courthouse, and it will not have extras. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the party of the century. This is going to be straight out of Crombie. I'm telling you, please like, subscribe, share, comment, Cash App, sub up, save this. This will be a playlist on my YouTube channel. Definitely, this will be a playlist on my YouTube channel so that we can always go back to this. And if any replays, they will be in this playlist straight out of Crombie. No shade. This is the corporate greed and abuse that needs to be stopped now, like yesterday. This is only one company out of possibly a gazillion companies that have used their power to abuse, control, manipulate, and traffic. And we are not standing for it. Thank you so much. It has been Ty-Mitch, your host of Overly Invested. I love you guys. And remember, facts change feelings, but feelings never change facts. Good night.